Hello, BookTube. I thought I'd come to you with a tag. I've seen this going around for quite a while, and a number of days ago, I seen Roz do this on Scallydandling about the books. The mid-year book freakout tag for 2022 edition, and I've seen it in previous years. And after watching a few of them and after seeing Roz's, I realized, yeah, it is really a good, reflection on things. I should have been more prepared for this in the sense that I haven't kept a list of what I've read this year, so it's like some of it I keep forgetting. So I need to actually go back and retrospect and watch my Friday video reads, uh, and Friday reads videos and make a list. But I'm gonna attempt this. I'm a little shaky on a couple of answers here, and it's probably because of that, or maybe I just really don't have anything to answer for these. But um, we'll do our best here. Now, the best book you've read so far in 2022. That's a tough one because there's a lot of good stuff, but I've been rereading some old favorites. And I would say so far, the one that comes to mind is Francois Rabelais' Gargantua and Pantagruel. And one of the reasons why I've read this on a number of occasions, this is the third, fourth time, I can't remember now how many times I might have. It's definitely the third time. It could have been a fourth time, but I may have read bits of it the other time. But this one was a new translation that I had not read. It's not new, but it's a newer one. It's translated by M.A. Screech, and it is fantastic. It has everything in here. It's got tons of notes because there were discrepancies in various uh, editions during his life and subsequently, where there was sections that were banned. So when it was reprinted, things were changed, or things inadvertently changed, potentially that caused controversy that he denied having, and it was the printers or the publisher that did this. Uh, all that is in there in notes or in extra text throughout, and just references to, well, his references to Renaissance literature, to classical literature, to Bible. It's a soup to nuts edition of this, and it's one of my favorite books of all time, to be honest. And it's staying up there with that at that height. And I just would love to have a nice hardcover edition of Screeches, like with all the notes that this is. I don't know if there is everything with the notes, because there has been well, there probably was a hardcover that Penguin sort of put out with this. The Folio Society did a special edition, which was wonderful, 2 volumes, but it was way too expensive. I don't know if it had all the notes in it that are in here. I don't know. I know it was his translation, but yeah, that I'm not too sure of. But it was way beyond my price range, so I don't have to worry about that. Let me get that out of the way. Oops. That'll sit there. Question 2: best sequel you've read so far in 2022. That's been a difficult one. Um, because I've read some sequels, but this one it could have been better. The first one was actually better, but I suppose being a sequel, it's the only one that comes to mind, and I would say it's the best one, and you can sort of see it lurking here. It is The Naked Sun by Gazimov, because I'm going through the future history, doing the future history project and reading his future history, not only his, but the pastiche works as well by other writers. So this is it's science fiction, obviously, and it's a robot mystery, I guess you would call it, with R. Daniel Oliva, R for robot, and Elijah Bailey, and they go to Aurora. It's the first settled world um, by Earth, but it's hundreds of years or longer than that, hundreds of years anyway, since they've settled, and there is animosity between Earth and the spacer worlds. And Elijah is to investigate a murder of a robot, nonetheless, and to save a scientist's career. And it's good. Maybe not as good as the original Caves of Steel, but it's one I can think of for a sequel. New release that you haven't read yet but want to. I'm sure there's lots, but there's two things that come to mind. Um, Auden has there's been a series of all his writings, like his nonfiction, his essays, uh, radio plays, libretto for operas. I've got all that. I've got everything, and now they find. I think it's the final, unless they come out with some updated versions. Is these 2 volumes of poetry that have come out, and by Princeton University Press, I think. And I really want to get those to complete my set, but also to have his complete poetry. There's another one, and it's poetry related. It's the diaries of, I always get her name wrong, Edna St. Vincent Millay. I think I've been getting it correct recently, which is really odd. Even before the COVID cognitive issues, I never always got her, or rarely got her name correctly. Even though I love her poetry, but this is sort of her diaries, and I'm really looking forward to getting that at some point. And then number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. The one I think that comes to mind is there's an annotated complete version, it's called, of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. It's slated to come out, I think, in late October here in the UK. And it's an annotated version by Leslie S. Klinger, who's sort of currently the preeminent annotator for great stuff. He's done Sherlock Holmes in 3 volumes, or an updated annotated 3 volumes. He's done Dracula by Bram Stoker. He's done Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. He's done 2 volumes of H.P. Lovecraft. And it goes on. Like, there's other ones that I can think about. I think he's even done The Watchmen by Alan Moore, or something like that. And he's edited tons of books as well. And yeah, I definitely want to get this one. That is one I would love to get. Now, the biggest disappointment. Well, there's been a few, but I suppose the biggest disappointment was, and I can't get them out. There's three volumes here. It was a trilogy, and it's part of the Future History Project. Was a Susan Calvin trilogy. It's sort of her early days by Mickey Zucker Reichart. And I really, really was hoping for this, because we'll see Susan Calvin crop up in the next in a couple questions later in this tag, and I really, really disliked it. Like, they I thought really fell down. It was sort of like a way of doing something that was potentially so good, but it just they were just shoddily written, I thought, and yeah, thoroughly, almost, I wouldn't say thoroughly, but very close to it, disappointing. They were a disappointment, that's for sure. Number 6, biggest surprise, and that's just recent. The biggest surprise for me, because I've had this, I've loved the movie for decades and decades. I've had the book for, like, I had the book for 40 years ago, and I never read it, because I always thought it was going to be a weak and story, and I didn't want it to ruin the film. But as with a lot of things, like I'm rereading a lot of stuff this year, but I'm also trying some new things, and I do, and because if there's an event, a reading event, and I'll go, well, that's an excuse to read this, so I'm going to read this time. And in this case, it's June on the Range, which we're coming right up to. Well, by the time this goes up, it'll be over. But the book is True Grit by Charles Portis. It was written in published in 1968. The film was 1969. It was serialized first of all, but it's a very short book. It's just, in this it's not even two. It's barely 200 pages, or just over 200 pages, and I thoroughly loved it. It's simple but deceptively simple, and yeah, it was a pleasure to read, and I'm definitely going to reread this. I might have read too much into it. I admit that. In some ways, like I've done a video of a book to film with this, and I do admit that I might have read too much in some ways into it. But I hold by what I said, because I think there's hidden things in here. Not hidden, but there's things to discover. Let's put it that way, on many levels. And that's why that is, to me, is going to be a reread at some point, and it's not gonna be maybe one of my favorites, but it's gonna be a good book for me to revisit occasionally. Number 7, favorite new author, debut or new to you. That is really, really difficult, because I've read a few new authors. Like even the Charles Portis here for True Grit is a new author for me. But I wouldn't say he's a favorite, because I need to read more than one book by someone. I will say, like, the answer to this, I'm going to twist it a little bit, for an author that I'm discovering again, and thanks to Steve Donahue, first of all, who sent me a bunch of vintage science fiction paperbacks, and I think there was 10 of them, or 11, 10 different titles, but there was a duplicate of one of two short story collections and novels of A.E. Van Vogt, science fiction author, Canadian-born science fiction author, from the Golden Age, and wrote right up till his death in the 2000s. A lot of writing. Not the greatest of writers for technical abilities, but I love his stuff, and I've since got sent a bunch more. You can see the box right there, the white one. That's at least half, if not more, of A. Van Vogt, and it's a rediscovery, I guess you would say, and he's frustrating as hell. He bugs me because of the shoddiness. He does things at times, and the way he cannibalized earlier stories, but they're pure pleasure, and I love them. So that's how I'm going to answer that question. Not a new author, but it's a reacquaintance. Now I'm going to flip these two questions here. Number 8 is new fictional crush, and number 9 is new favorite character. I'm going to put number 9 first, so we'll pretend newest favorite character is number 8. Now, there's two answers for that. Well, the real true answer is new favorite character. A new character that I've in a book is Maddie Ross. Again, this is sort of recent, but Maddie Ross from True Grit. Because she's 14 years old, but boy, does she, Rooster Cogburn, who's in his 40s, she puts him in his place, and don't want to cross Maddie. It's just a fabulous character. It's well fleshed out. That's the thing. A lot of times that I find where there's young characters, they're not quite fleshed out. Like, she is sort of, she's got big boots to fill, and she's bossy and stuff. But it's dealt with. It's how it's dealt with. It's dealt with so well. that it was sort of believable for her character to do what she did, and the ability. And I didn't really question her doing these things, because of the way her character was. I question, like, or maybe the response from some people, yes, but yeah, no, I would say that's the new one. Another one, like, I'm twisting the question a little bit, and as I said, I was going to refer to this character again, is Susan Calvin, from the robot stories, by Isaac Asimov, despite the trilogy that sort of takes it away. But most of hers are in the complete robot. You can see it sort of right here. Um, and maybe a dozen or more stories that Isaac Asimov wrote with her. And I really, really love her character. She's one of my favorite characters of fiction, I would say, um, in many ways. And then we go on to newest favorite fictional crush, Susan Calvin. Even though she is not romantically portrayed in any way. She's described. She's not glamorously described, but yeah, Susan Calvin, my fictional crush. Um, and newest favorite character. Oh no, that's the one we just did. Number 10, book that made you cry. Well, I don't really cry so much from books, but there are things that made me sort of sad in retrospect, I suppose. And it has to do with. Sorry, I'm trying to reach for a book here to show you. Um, Again, with the June on the Range, and I read. I wanted to do Searchers by Alan LeMay, and for the film, John Ford film, and John Wayne. Uh, Now, there's a basis to sort of, like, there's some historical, like a historical basis to it. Like, it was taken from a lot of captive story, but the one basis one of the characters about the search was from 1836. Uh, uh, Cynthia Ann Parker from Texas. She was taken by the Comanche when she was 9 years old, and then her uncle spent however long, like 15 years looking for her, or approximately. And she wasn't sort of, um, I don't want to use the word liberated, because that's not sort of, I don't think, really what sort of happened, but she was brought back into white society at a raid on a village that slaughtered all. It was just men, women, or old men, women, and children. But she was there with one of her children, because she had been with the Comanche for 25 years. She grew up there. She was integrated into the society, and she never felt back in. And I guess it was the aspect of that, being 9 years old, she was traumatized when she was first taken by the Comanche, because her family and extended family, or many of them around her, were probably killed before her eyes. And then she was taken and raised, and then became the wife of the chief, or potentially the one that took her captive when she became of age. So she but she sort of, I guess it's sort of almost a Stockholm syndrome, possibly, with this, that she sort of forgot her past life and got integrated. But then she didn't want to go back, because she knew that people were searching for her, but she kept in the background and hid at times. And then she was forced to go back. But again, watching family, or extended family, friends that she would have, even though she may not have been treated as an equal with the Comanche to a certain extent, but it was her world that was slaughtered by the Texas Rangers. So she got it at both ends. and also the view at the time, because she was still an outsider, even though they wanted her back into the family and stuff, but they didn't really want her in a sense. That's why the movie's so good in many ways, because um, a woman who had sexual relations with a native, an Indian, considered, was in many people's eyes, men and women, that she'd lost her soul. So she is not human anymore. And it'd be better if she was dead, and so she was completely isolated for the rest of her life, which was a short period, and her daughter's death. But yeah, it was not that I guess was an emotional part of the story, and that was told in this book, The Searchers, The Making of an American Legend by Glenn Frankel. And it not only goes through the film in the second half, but the first half is her story and her son's story, Quanah Parker. So yeah, so that's the one. And there was another part in the story, uh, I can't remember, the Ghost of Mrs Muir. I can't reach it here. And it was another book to film, and it's a lovely story. And there's one scene in there where she's dying, and her ghost friend who's there finally comes back to her, and she's about to die, and she said something rude and nasty to her lifelong friend, basically, who's her maid as well, or been taking care of her in her last years. And her ghost friend character, Captain, says, call her back and apologize before it's too late, basically. And I thought that was really nice, because it's the kind of thing where people don't realize they do things, they don't quite mean it, but sometimes it's too late to take it back, and on both sides. So anyway, so those are the two things. And a book that made you happy. Oh, see, again, that's really really difficult. A lot of them make me happy, but it's like in different ways. This one really made me happy because I saw so much extra into it. The science fiction I'm reading, the A. Van Vogt, because I'm seeing other things. I would say there's a lot of books, and I think that's sort of where I'm going to leave it. One I guess I guess like a specific book. Okay, I can't really get it out of here, but it's right here, sort of off the side. It's Charles Dickens' Bleak House, because that first page is just like, I think it's just even the first paragraph. It's just so beautiful, and I love it. I can reread that passage over and over, and with all its winding and wandering around a little bit occasion, I love the Bleak House story. So yeah, if I've got to give a title, that's it. It's Bleak House by Charles Dickens. What was it, 1853 or something like that, possibly? Or no, maybe not that late. Anyway, Charles Dickens. Okay, two more questions. The most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received? I haven't personally bought too many books this year for a number of reasons, but I suppose the most beautiful book that I was given would be this one, and it's one I haven't read, which I'm hoping to read in the future, next year, and hopefully a buddy read with probably Mark from Book Time with Elvis, because he hasn't read it either, and I think he knows a couple others that haven't read it as well. Is this edition of The Lord of the Rings, with the die cut with the Eye of Sauron? That's not a die cut. That would have been nice if it was a die cut there as well. It's illustrated by Tolkien. It's his illustration. It's the first time this has been done in the first edition of this, and it's got, I guess it's elfish on the front page edge. That's nice. I do like the ink staining. As you can see, it's got a ribbon marker, and it also has the ribbon head tails, head and heel tails. It's sewn, which I always like from books. I do like the design. It's simple. It's got maps that come out that are loosely laid in. As I said, it's sewn. The only thing that I would against this is that it's not cloth bound. It's not the covers are not cloth bound. That's the only thing. But otherwise, that would have put it up into even the stratosphere for that. But yeah, this is probably the most beautiful, and it was a gift from one of my subscribers, because I have put up a wish list on Amazon, and if you're interested, it's down at the bottom in the description, and there's some books, there's other things in there, a few Blu-rays, and yeah, so that's why this came, and this was for my birthday. I think it was, not Christmas. I think it was my birthday, so it was a very, very nice birthday present, very, very generous. So yeah, so this is the most beautiful book that I've got so far this year. Yeah, because it was this year. So what, it couldn't have been Christmas, because that would have been last year. Hopefully I got it right. And then number 13, the last one is what books do you need to read before the end of the year? Ooh, I can't reach that high. There's so many. There's probably about another 25, 26 books in the Future History Project that I still need to read. I have a number of big books to read yet. I've been reading at least one, or trying to, every month. But I got ill again in April, I guess it was. No, May. Sorry. No, April, I think it was. Yeah, April. And I didn't get Anna Karenina read, and War and Peace, which I will be doing before the end of the year, probably. I think, is it War and Peace that I've got set up with someone? Oh, yes, Greg, probably at another bibliophile reads. I think, sort of in. I think that was the one we decided on for this year. So I'll be reading that. Then I'll fit in Anna Karenina somewhere. But also too, there was a couple others that I missed that I was going to read in that month. No, sorry, it's Middlemarch. It's Middlemarch that we're going to read. Yes, with Greg at another bibliophile reads. The old noggin there didn't work too well. But yeah, so we're going to start that sometime in... I'm not sure. I can't remember. Anyway, at the end of the year. So we'll get to that. But I still need, Anna Karenina, War and Peace, the Middlemarch. There is... Tom Jones to read yet too. I should be able to fit all those in, and then I got to finish up at the moment, which you can see it right there, is Don Quixote. No, that's not Don Quixote. Don Quixote's up here. So I need to finish that, but that's going to be finished in the next few days, 3-4 days. 5 days, say at the most. So that'll be done. But there's lots of other stuff. Like for August, there's Three Musketeers, the new translation. I'm pointing up here because that's where it is. By Lawrence Elmsworth or Ellsworth. I can't say. It doesn't say on the spine. So that's going to be done then. And yeah, this just goes on. There's some other Russians. There's Les Miserables. I'm going to reread the new translation, or the new Penguin translation. There is Count of Monte Cristo. There are a number of other Russians at the end of the year. It's gone from my mind at the moment. But yeah, so much, and so many other things as well. I have tons of other stuff. I'm going to try to read as much as possible and reread. Most of it is going to be rereading. But anyway, there is the. It's gone on for really too long here, but the mid-year book freakout tag 2022. I'll leave a link to Roz's channel down below, and I'll put the questions down below too, because I think I've sort of remastered that ability to do that. So anyway, yeah, if you want, if you're a booktuber and you want to do this, or if you want to just, list out the answers to these questions in the comments, feel free, and we can have a little discuss, or any specific one, so I think I've hit them all. Yeah, I think I have. I had to twist a few to make them fit, but I think it is something that's worth doing. So I'm going to do this next year, but also I'm going to prepare for my end of year review. So I've got to start making a list of things that I have written as I go along in order to do that. Anyway, take care, BookTube. I'll see you next time.